So, as I mentioned, the Paralympics is a great way for us to segue into our next chat this morning. So, they commenced yesterday. Oh, actually, on Tuesday, I think it was. So, it's become a good reminder for us to watch our language when it comes to referring and talking to people living with disabilities. So, there's new research out showing 1 in 5 Australians say that they're essentially clueless and have no idea about what wording to use. With me right now is River Knight. He's a disability industry expert. He's also co founder of Developing Australian Communities. River, thank you for coming on.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, can you give us a sense of why it is so important to use that appropriate language when referring to someone with a disability?
Well, what we see is that, our language really shapes the way we value, don't value, or see the world that we live in. So if I talk about something in a positive way, I get a positive sense of that. If I talk about something in a negative way, I get a negative sense of that. So the way we want to change things is to make sure that people are actually using words that are positive, that create control, choice, and value the members of our community that are in that disability population, which makes up around 15% of the world's population.
So, how do we do that, River? I mean, what are the right ways to kind of twist around the language we might have used in the past that was not good and not helpful, and indeed maybe even deleterious to the people hearing it? How do we use the right terminology?
Well, the people with disability in Australia, and I'm one of those, is we say to people, it's not rocket science. You don't need to be worried too much about it. You can actually have that conversation. And what we try to say to people is we need to work as a culture in Australia to demystify disability, aged care, all of those things that we don't like to talk about. The research that developing Australian communities did, found that almost 50% of people that responded had used a really offensive term when they're talking about disability deliberately. That's really disappointing in our age. But what we say to people is treat people as people. I was in a shopping centre recently with a friend of mine who uses a large wheelchair. We were doing some shopping. I was supporting him, giving him a hand to carry things. And I had a little old lady come up to me and just said, "You're a lovely, wonderful person for spending time with this person in it with the wheelchair." And she said, "Does he talk?" And I looked at him and went, "I don't know." I said, "Do you talk?" And he said, "No, I don't talk." And of course, she had a bit of a look at us, and I had a bit of a laugh, and we both kind of had a bit of a laugh. But she looked at us blankly, as if to say, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're speaking to him." And she said, "Oh, it's a shame he can't talk." And we just looked at each other and went, "Okay, so yeah." Would you like to have a chat with him? Because he's here right next to me. It's about valuing people and saying, you know what, you can treat them as everyday people, and we can start by just focusing on them as everyday people.
Okay, so I mean, even the word disability sometimes makes me feel uncomfortable, River. When I think about working with people with disability, I always think about focusing on the ability that exists.
We do. So we try not to say sort of disabled, for example, because it's such an encompassing word to say you just can't do something, and that's not the way people experience the world. So we usually say a person with a disability. We might say a person who uses a wheelchair. We don't say things like wheelchair bound because
Yep,
they're not
got you.
bound in that
Yep,
wheelchair.
yep,
So we try to talk about the person first, and we look at the strengths of the person. So when I support someone to go to the doctor needs to talk to their patient who's sitting there in the wheelchair, not the support worker that's there, because I'm not there to replace that person. At the checkout, talk to the person with a disability that's giving you the money. Don't look at the support worker and ask them if it's okay that the person's buying milk. We need to make sure that we just start by focusing on the person first.
We are with River Knight, founder or co founder of Developing Australian Communities, which we'll talk about in a moment. We're talking about language, though, use when it comes to people with abilities out there. So, River, can I ask? I think that my kids are better than this in terms of other generations, whether it be mine or the older people as well. How do you have the conversation with people who are in a situation where they're not really understanding why it's so important that the language you use affects the person? How do you have that convo, do you think?
Well, I think generationally we've seen a change. So, 75% of our younger respondents in that Generation Z said they're pretty comfortable talking about disability. Maybe that's around coming through an education system that's focused on that. But what we find that the best impact and the best way to change people's behaviour is education. So, people just seeing people with a disability in the community and realising that it is actually a large population of the Australian public, over 65, over 50% of 65-year-olds and up all live with a disability. So it's not something that's uncommon. So if people can, make sure they pay attention, have conversations. Don't go up to people in the shopping centre and say, I see you've got a disability. I don't know anything about that. Can you tell me about it? Because the person may tell them where to go. But we're looking at, saying, what is disability? How does that affect someone? And if I was in that position, how would I like to be treated? And if I'm bringing up a person's disability, I need to start with saying, why am I bringing up this person's disability in the first place? Is it any of my business? And do I actually need to talk about it? Or is it actually me that has the problem? And,
Mm.
and how can I perhaps, get over that anxiety and realize that I'm actually just talking to a person as opposed to something that's really complex and uncomfortable.
Okay, so just finally, River, I'm going to ask again, though, just that idea of dealing with people who are perhaps, in that older demographic that have old ways when it comes to the language they use. Is it fair enough to have a fight at the dinner table about it with those people to say, like, this is the reason that you shouldn't use that terminology, you shouldn't use that word? I mean, is that a worthwhile fight to have?
Well, we say less is more, so we don't have a fight. We use a bit of humor. We try to bring things back to reality and just say, you know what, maybe 40, 50 years ago, people were in our community the same as they are now. And maybe we didn't use the right words then. And those people that we're talking about, they've actually said they would prefer us to use different words. And
Yep.
that seems fair enough to do.
Yep. I mean, it's kind of just being polite as well, isn't it, River? I mean, when they talk about political correctness, often I think, well, aren't you just being polite? Aren't you just doing the right thing? That there's no kind of enforcement of something happening here.
No, and most people with disability aren't going to be offended because someone doesn't know how to talk about their disability. And what we've seen with that We the 15 movement's been wonderful with their TV campaigns talking about, people aren't necessarily special because they have a disability. They're just an average person who has a mortgage and pays rent and has a life, and sometimes in a good mood, sometimes in a bad mood, just like everyone else. So if we can just bring things back to treating people as normal parts of our community and normalize that experience, we'll do a lot better.
Okay, River, thank you so much for your time this morning. Hopefully, this might have made some impact through the community up here. Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much.
That is River Knight, a disability industry expert, also co founder of Developing Australian Communities.